Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Breakthrough, where we have the gorgeous Amy, who is our spiritual life coach and guru. So we're going to dive in deep today and talk about shadow work. Right, so what is shadow work? Because I have no idea, and I don't think many people do.
I don't either. Okay.
So tell us what shadow work is.
Okay, I love shadow work.
Okay, I know you do.
To me, shadow work is like the gangster, spiritual badass growth work, of spirituality, right? Because that's such a catch-all phrase. But shadow work is working with the parts of ourselves, myself, yourselves, that we tend to hide, lie about, deny, pretend don't exist, right?
To ourselves.
To yourself and to everybody else, right?
Okay.
An example being, I was a raging bulimic for like 33 years, and very few people had any clue that was even happening in my life, right? A shadow could be, it doesn't have to necessarily be it doesn't have to be raging bulimic. It could be, on
like
the
a
weekends,
negative trait?
It could be a negative trait. It could be something that you just don't want anybody to know about yourself. It could be something that comes up over and over again, like a negative trait, like judgment could be something that's in the shadow. And it could be something that, particularly it's something that somebody is not willing to look at. From my perspective, the goal is, for me, is to, my goal is to be the best and highest possible expression of myself, right? And whatever that looks like at any time could be different. Like what I thought that was, a couple years ago and what I think it is now are different. But shadow work's a really key part of that, because most of the time, and especially in spirituality, people are taught not to have negative thoughts and
no judgment.
Always zen.
Always zen. Angry,
really it's to turn the other cheek. It's all love.
No exploding.
No exploding. Sometimes you have to kick somebody's ass, and I don't mean that actually really, physically, because I'm not advocating, violence, but sometimes you have to just be really clear about this is my boundary, or this is something that doesn't work for me. So spirituality doesn't necessarily mean I never get angry, I never get upset,
That's the first misconstruction of
for me.
I feel like with everyone, because I always think, I totally think that everyone's spiritual.
Yeah,
you're zen from the minute you wake up, calm, and would never judge me, and full of love.
I want to be really clear about this. Anything that I am saying, this is my experience. This is what the truth is to me, based on the work that I've done. And sort of my exploration and experimentation. So shadow work for me is really looking at, all parts of myself that are not in alignment with what it is that I say that I want to be. Or, what it is that I desire to create for myself.
Got it.
So if I am saying, I'm giving a hypothetical.
That's good though, because some people have no idea what's going on.
So if I say, I am, my desire is to be calm. I want to embody calm. I want to embody peace. I want to be in flow. But every day I get in my car and I start screaming at people, on the freeway, and I pick fights with my boyfriend when I get home, and I am miserable to customer service reps on the phone, and I'm just creating chaos. Then I'm really not embodying peace and calm, and perhaps I need to take a look at what the hell is going on that is causing, this behavior. For me, it's really interesting, because then you start getting into what is the motivation behind why you're doing what you're doing.
Ooh. So is it because I don't quite get exactly, is it what's underneath that you're avoiding, or you're not quite aware of, or what's holding you back but you don't know it, or is it?
Yes, it could be all of those things. It can also be what's in the unconscious, what is in your subconscious.
Right.
What is motivating you to do what it is that you're doing, because there could be something, I'll just give you guys an example.
Do it.
So I moved from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Atlanta, Georgia when I was about 12, 13 years old. I started high school in Atlanta, and I was this really cute, typical 12-year-old from New Mexico, hair pulled back in barrettes, jeans and a t-shirt, like tomboyish. And everybody in Atlanta had like the Farrah Fawcett, blowout, the feathered hair, and tons of makeup. It was like Dynasty and Dallas, where the TV shows are on then. So it was like just complete over made up, like so much makeup. And I didn't wear any makeup. I didn't even own a bra. So everybody thought that there was something wrong with me when I started high school. So I experienced, you know, a lot of rejection, and I remember it was very Mean Girls, and I got a haircut finally, and I remember when I got to school, the curl girls were like, "Oh my God, it's so amazing what a difference a haircut can make," you know, and they kind of flip their hair as they walk by, right? So I developed an experience of, you know, rejection by women. Or this is how I internalized it.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I told myself that I get along better with men, that because I had only brothers growing up, and, you know, I didn't trust women, you know, all of this stuff, but I didn't realize that one of the defining moments of where I created this belief, like, I can't trust them, was actually the experience of starting school and getting the rejection, you know, from basically everyone.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. And so, you know, that created a belief in me that I couldn't trust women, that I didn't want women friends, that I didn't need women friends.
So a false belief.
Okay.
A false belief could be part of the shadow, right? Or it just could be, you know, a shadow could be an addiction. It could be a distraction. It could be, you know, eating disorder. It could be food addiction. It could be alcohol. It could be drugs. It could be shopping. It could be gambling. It could be, you know, sex. It could be all of the above.
So how would you work that out? So if someone, so let's say that people have never heard of shadow self before and they don't know even where to start, how do you even identify, like how do you find the shadow and how do you work through it? If you could like maybe talk us through a process or where you would start for people that want to maybe investigate into their shadow.
Well, the first thing is like, okay, what are you unhappy with, you know, in your life? Like what doesn't feel right? Like, and again, this is a lot to do with emotions. Like if I'm continuously upset, you know, all the time, or I'm, you know, always having this same experience, you know, once you start recognizing a pattern in your experience, and like, why does this keep showing up? You know, what is this? You know, why am I continuously dating the same married guy? You know,
or why do I keep having abusive relationships? Or why do I keep not doing what I say I'll do? Or
exactly.
whatever.
So that's where the shadow is, right?
When you want to change, right? I feel like in a way you want to focus on where you want to be at. Yep. So if you go back and delve, or you go back and like go into the darkness again, you can kind of get stuck there and you can constantly be in that spot.
Yep.
So I have a tendency to just focus on where I want to be, but maybe that's also where I avoid.
Right, you don't want to look at what, so it's the most...
I don't want to re-bring it up again and then be in a negative, like, I don't want to relive it all, really.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Right, we don't want to relive it, yet we create it over and over again. So we're continuously reliving it, right?
Yeah. Do you mind, like, working through, if you don't mind, Jess, like an example, because I think sometimes it's really helpful for people to see, like, maybe a mini process working through something with Jess. Like,
okay, so I think my shadow, at least the one that first comes to mind, that's the easiest to kind of understand, would be my inability to be direct with people, to speak my truth in that moment. What tends to happen is I'm with somebody, I start to feel something, I think about smashing their head through my car window. I'm not kidding, that's how I feel.
Oh, no.
So I think about that, or I think about verbally abusing them because I know that to be true, that is a release for me, and my family will attest to that. So
verbally abusive?
Verbally abusive to people because it feels so good to just
get it out.
Punish you for making me feel this way.
Okay.
That's what it feels like.
Okay, so...
Super unhealthy.
I'm very honest.
Very well aware of this, by the way. This is not like something I'm proud of.
Okay, so let's just kind of take a step back. So it's not like, let's not put the judgment that it's unhealthy or
something I'd like to change.
Yeah, it's something you'd like to change.
Yeah,
it's not benefiting you.
It's not benefiting me, holding it all in all the time.
Right. So you know, the first thing that came to me was like, there's a lot of anger, right?
100%.
Because, you know, in order to smash someone's face through the car window into a car window. And then, you know, possibly hit them with a sledgehammer afterwards.
And then say horrible things to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of rage, right?
Very much, yeah.
Okay, so is that rage typically towards that person, or is the rage always there?
I think it's always there. I think it's like...
just like an undercurrent of rage all the time.
Yeah, and it can come out, and I think sometimes too I get defensive because... in my mind, it's like, well, if you're not being walked on, then you got to be defensive. Like, beat them to the punch.
So you kind of are always on the defensive.
I'm always on the defensive, and I've been trying to. I feel myself doing that, so I've been trying to work on that. But yeah, it's like always on the defensive, or if it's something that I just don't feel comfortable being honest about.
In any of those situations, the most important thing to do, from my perspective, is to take a breath.
Breathe.
Is to breathe.
Is it on there?
Right. No, it's on the other one.
Oh.
We just,
breathe. Yeah, it's really important because a breath is like a reset button. You know, it gives you a second to, you know, maybe stop yourself from going to 0 to I'm gonna punch you, right?
Yeah.
In 60 seconds or less. It's probably more like 2 seconds. So that's the first one.
Okay.
And then you know, there's one thing you said was I'm so angry because of the way they made me feel.
Yeah, or the way I allowed them to make me feel, or the fact that maybe it's just angry at myself that I don't have the courage in that moment to be like, to set boundaries, speak up and be direct.
Okay, so that's important, right? Because nobody is making you feel anything, right? People are doing something, behaving, or just being. Some people just breathe and they infuriate, you know. So whatever they're doing. Your experience of what they're doing, right, is yours.
My responsibility.
Your responsibility is your experience of what they're doing or how you interact with them based on what it is that they're doing. And it's basically usually because you're not saying something, right? To them. And it could be that there was a boundary that was crossed, and it could be that one, you never communicated that there was a boundary. 2, the boundary was crossed, you communicated the boundary, and you're not enforcing the boundary. You know, so a lot of times,
you've let it happen.
Or you've let it happen over and over. So, you know, the rage that you're feeling may actually be rage against yourself.
Right.
That you're projecting.
Which makes total sense.
You've
said that to me before as well. You've said that you feel like it's sometimes at yourself, frustrated at the situation for not being able to say it.
For not being able to say it, or in that moment. Oh, and then if I set a boundary, right, and then somebody doesn't respect the boundary, instead of being like, Jess, that's your job to set it again, because I'm like so mad that they didn't get the first time, I feel disrespected.
Right, that they deliberately went against you after
like no means
boundary.
no.
Yeah.
And then when you keep asking me, now I want to punch your head through the window. You know what I mean?
Well, it's okay. So here's a few ways to work with that, right?
Breath, for sure.
Breath, 1. So, you know, what is the fear behind you saying to somebody, you know, a boundary?
The fear is feeling uncomfortable inflicting some type of pain or uncomfortable feeling on them. I avoid pain at all costs, so what I do is I don't rage in that moment because I suppress it, because I can handle the rage, but it's more uncomfortable to be
your rage.
So it's more them, it's more you don't want to put them in that situation rather than you're uncomfortable.
I don't want to be a part of confrontation with another human. So
for you,
I would rather hold on to the rage because I can handle it. It's a familiar feeling. I'm just going to suppress this because the thought of us getting into any type of uncomfortable conversation, even if it's pleasant, very uncomfortable for me. I don't like setting boundaries. I don't like the conversation. I don't enjoy it. I don't get off on, like, it's one of those things where I avoid pain at all costs. I avoid awkward situations. That includes, setting boundaries or having just the tough talks, you know?
So you avoid doing anything that you feel could upset another.
Yes, thus upsetting me.
And okay, so their upset will upset you.
Yeah.
Because
my intentions are to never hurt. And I always feel like if I make you uncomfortable, clearly I did something wrong. Like, it's that weird manipulation that I know is not true. I can logically say that doesn't make sense. But in my head, it's like, ooh, but I don't want to inflict pain. I don't want to make anything uncomfortable. I just want to avoid it. It's not there.
Right.
And then I run away.
Okay, so again, this is all just turning it all back on yourself, right?
Okay.
So this is you inflicting punishment and anger and discomfort on yourself so that you are not putting anybody else into a situation where they could possibly feel discomfort.
Yeah.
What happens when somebody feels discomfort to you? What is your fear that they're going to do?
So
I've never thought about that.
What if if you make me uncomfortable,
Yeah.
just because we've had a few nice chats, but uncomfortable situations, not massively, but
yeah,
like what is a good example of in that situation? Would you be worried that you would upset, that I'm uncomfortable, or would it be weird for you because you don't want to feel uncomfortable that we're uncomfortable?
I probably wouldn't want to feel uncomfortable that we are uncomfortable, because I either like being on really good terms or not at all. Like, I'm very black and white with people in my life, and so I want to keep them around. I love you. I don't want to make things weird. I don't want to rock the boat.
You want it all good.
Yeah. So my fear is that somebody that I care about, I'm gonna make them uncomfortable, and then I'm gonna feel uncomfortable, and it's gonna be weird.
And then what? No, and then what? You make them uncomfortable, and then what happens?
And then the rest of the day is really weird.
Why?
Because I set a boundary, or I said something that they didn't want to hear, they weren't expecting, they didn't know.
Would it be a fear of again, I can only give my example, but would it be a fear of, if it was like that with me or the other person, would it be the fear of that person doesn't like you anymore because it's been weird, like it's changed?
Yeah.
Their opinions changed.
Actually, that's what it is. It's the fear.
Rejection.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was gonna say it's the fear of somebody
that I'll
viewing
no
me
longer like
differently
you anymore because you stepped
You're
across
the
the
nice
line.
girl.
Right.
Jess is a nice girl, right? And so if I set boundaries and say no, you're the bitch. That's the fear.
Fear of being a bitch.
Fear of being a bitch.
This is all about what is, I'm looking for what is behind.
Yeah. No, I've never gotten this deep with it, so that's really interesting.
So what happens if
Jess
someone
is
thinks you're a
breakthrough today.
bitch?
Then automatically,
You're a bitch, Jess. Like what?
Yeah.
What happens?
Your best friend thinks you're a bitch.
now I don't have my best friend.
Okay, so
Okay.
if you are a bitch, your best friend will leave.
So
Yes.
fear of loss or
Fear of
rejection.
loss and the judgment, because I pride myself on being kind most times. And so I don't want to lose that part of me. And so the other part is it's hard to find the balance of in my mind it's you're kind or you're a bitch. Even though you can
don't
very well be
integrate them
both.
together.
Yeah,
The goal is really to be here, is to be in balance, is to bring both aspects of ourselves into alignment, right? The shadow aspect is you basically telling everyone how the hell they're going to be. If they're going to stay in your life, then they're going to have to do this. It's like control, you do this, I'm screaming at you.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side where you don't say anything.
Yeah.
You're stuck over here.
So one or the other. She's either in that.
You're either screaming at somebody or you're not saying anything. The in between, right? To come, so you're flipping between these two extremes,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, it's very black and white.
yeah, you go from the light and straight into the shadow, and you're screaming
Yeah.
at somebody. And so the in between part is really to be able to be fully, grounded in myself, and to be able to say to somebody, look, here's the thing, when we have an appointment for 1:00 and, I've arranged my schedule to be here at 1 and you don't show up on time. And in fact, you don't call me, you're 30 minutes late. I'm texting and calling and you're not responding. That makes me feel really disrespected. And, I choose to be on time. And anyone that is going to be someone that I'm working with is also someone that my expectation is that they're on time. So going forward, if you're not going to be able to keep a commitment with me, my expectation is that you call me, 30 minutes, whatever
in
it
the
is.
future.
Yeah.
Right. Do.
And it's just being really clear and like
I've never
here's
set boundaries like that.
here's the confusion, right?
I mean, I've had to in my adult life, but it's, yes.
Well, here's how I typically used to set boundaries, right?
Okay.
I was you.
Okay.
And
Oh,
sometimes
really?
I still am you. Yeah, that's why I'm
Okay,
I'm
great.
talking to myself right
Awesome.
now. And so I thought I have to be this perfect, wonderful, I will let you walk all over me all
Yes.
the time. I will say nothing because
Doormat.
I'm working on being perfect. And so I can't say anything to you because right now I want to punch you in the face.
Because it will break the illusion
It'll
that
break
I'm
the
not,
illusion
that
that
you
I'm
think
perfect.
I'm nice.
We don't say. until we explode and then scream our boundaries, right?
Right.
And when I am screaming my boundary at someone, they really are not able to hear what my boundary is, right?
Right, because they're too focused.
They're like all of a sudden going to be defensive, and then now I'm in a fight, right?
And plus they're going to be thinking, where did this come from? Like,
Right.
why didn't you tell me the first time we felt this?
And then you literally are creating the experience of having people label you as a bitch, right?
Yeah.
Because you
or crazy.
or crazy. Yes. So one of the things that's really important about setting boundaries is, really paying attention to what's going on in your body, which is one of the reasons why I feel like getting present is really important, because when you're paying attention, as soon as a boundary's been crossed. And that's the opportunity that you have to have a conversation
in that moment,
with that person.
Makes us so uncomfortable.
Well, you don't have to do it in that moment. You can always go and take a second and think about it. If we're not setting those boundaries, we're really turning it against yourself, which is important for self-trust, because if you're not able to trust yourself, who can you trust, right?
Yes.
You're not protecting yourself by not setting the boundaries, because you're busy trying to be an archetype of a woman that you actually
So your emotions are in someone else's hands as well, because you're not owning them.
Which then also makes it much easier to blame somebody else for your emotions, right?
Yeah.
So
because you're not being accountable and dealing with what you need to deal with.
Yeah, so that's boundary setting. Does that help?
It does, because the thing that resonated the most, and actually while you were talking, it clicked, is when you said rejection, I was like, no, I don't think that's it. And then as you were talking, I was like, no, that's it. Yep. You don't want to be not liked.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to be, I could probably figure out where this came from too, if I really want to get in there, but I don't want to be not liked.
Right.
And so I'm okay with expressing my anger and stuff to my family, because I know they're going to always be there.
Right.
But with my friends,
you don't
I'm like,
speak up.
Yeah, or people I care about, or people I want to impress, or people I want in my life that aren't blood related.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be not liked.
Yeah. Okay. So fear of rejection.
Fear of rejection. Yes. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was funny because when I said rejection, then no, that's not it.
Right.
And so that's another really important thing about the shadow, because a lot of times it's something like that where, someone says something and you're like, that is no. What I do now when I have that kind of stuff come up, like we were talking about my eating earlier, and this is for Jess is the fear of rejection, the fear of not being liked, which is another way of saying fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Rejection just sounds more extreme. Is when I feel it coming up.
Yeah.
Or I start to be conscious of the fact that I am reacting to a situation in a way that doesn't make sense for the situation, then I get to go, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling fear of rejection? Why am I feeling fear of rejection? And I can start working with myself, coaching myself.
Consciously working through that moment.
To work through that moment, going, what is behind this?
All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for Amy. I hope you enjoyed my breakthrough. Actually, that really was helpful. Thank you so much.
That was awesome to watch.
Yeah, I so appreciate that.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I hope that by working through that example, it really helped anybody who's watching understand a little bit about what shadow work is, because I think people may or may not have heard a lot about it.
I hadn't.
But it's really important work because, as we discussed, the whole piece of the fear of rejection can really have such a big impact on somebody's overall life experience without even understanding what it is, because it's literally in the shadow.
And then once you understand it, you can move forward.
It doesn't have the same power anymore, because what seemed like something that was happening without any understanding behind it, there was actually a very specific reason or incident that had begun that experience. So by looking at that, then you can start working with yourself to move through things that you desire to shift in your life.
We had our first breakthrough on the show. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We can't wait to see you again next week on The Breakthrough.
Bye.